Legend has it that when the fixtures were released for the CONCACAF 1998 World Cup qualification group stage, one member of the United States squad complained, "Hey, how come we have to play Trinidad and Tobago on the same day?" Now, I have no idea if that's true. It might just be a flagrant and disgraceful piece of anti-American bigotry, stereotyping our good friends from across the Atlantic for their perceived poor geographical educational standards, but if it were true, and if Trinidad and Tobago were two separate nations, which admittedly are rather large ifs, then the player in question would surely raise quite a legitimate point. Players and coaches often complain about fixture congestion and the unreasonable demands put on players' bodies, expecting them to be able to play 2 or even 3 games in the space of a week. You may recall that in the season before last, Liverpool played 6 games in 12 days over the festive period, including an EFL Cup quarter-final against Aston Villa the day before they faced Monterrey in the semi-final of the FIFA Club World Cup in Qatar. No Liverpool player played twice in the space of just 24 hours, as Jurgen Klopp flew his entire first team off to the Club World Cup in Qatar, whilst Neil Critchley occupied the dugout as a very young Liverpool team, with an average age of just 19, were picked apart at Villa Park. One man who did play twice in the space of just 24 hours is former Hull City and Manchester United goalkeeper Roy Carroll, who enjoyed just 3 hours sleep in between playing for Northern Ireland against Romania, in Romania no less, before flying back to England and putting in a stellar performance and keeping a clean sheet for Notts County away at Coventry City. That is pretty impressive stuff. But what about playing 2 games in a single day rather than just over a 24-hour period? Surely no one has done that. Well, I'm here to tell you that they have. Here are 7 footballers who played 2 games in a single day in a video that I was going to entitle 2 Games 1 Day before I had flashbacks to watching 2 Girls 1 Cup when I was only 11 years old. Janio. Getting us off to a very strong start, Janio Pernambucano is widely regarded as having been the greatest free kick specialist of the modern era and among the finest of all time. A master of both traditional free kicks and the notoriously difficult knuckleball technique, there was almost no position within the opposition's half in which, when Janio placed the ball down and took a step back, you thought that there was no way that he could score from there. His free kicks and heroics at both Lyon and Vasco might be what Janio is best known for, but the Brazilian also has another interesting piece of trivia. As one of only a handful of players to have ever played 2 games of football in a single day, and one of an even smaller cohort to have played 2 games in 2 different countries in a single day. And they were by no means easy games. In only his 3rd cap for the Brazilian national team, Janio was introduced as a substitute against Argentina in a friendly game in Porto Alegre, coming on in place of Zé Roberto. Brazil won the game 4-2 thanks to braces from Rivaldo and Ronaldo, but whilst his teammates sat back, relaxed, and reflected on their victory, Janio boarded the first flight from Porto Alegre to Montevideo in the hope of playing for Vasco da Gama in their Copa Mercosa tie away at Nacional. His flight was delayed, but Janio still made it in time to be introduced as a substitute at half-time. Janio went on to win 40 caps for Brazil, 2 Campeonato Brasileiro titles with Vasco, and 7 Ligue 1 titles in only 8 seasons with Lyon, where he now serves as the club's sporting director. Jorge Campos. By far the shortest, genuinely quite good goalkeeper, during my lifetime at least, and I suspect a fair bit beyond, Jorge Campos is a legend of the international game. Capped 130 times by Mexico, which is the same number as fellow goalkeeping great Edwin van der Sar, the Dutchman was, and indeed still is, I would imagine, a full foot taller than Campos. Standing at just 5 foot 6 inches tall, Campos was a classic El Loco style sweeper keeper of the kind that are almost exclusive to Latin American football. Renowned for his flamboyant style and eye-catching self-styled shirts that stood out even among the many ostentatious and, at times, obnoxious 1990s goalkeeper kits, Campos occasionally deputised as a striker, once scoring 22 goals in a single season, which is more than Alvaro Morata has ever managed. Sorry, Alvaro, that was completely unnecessary. There was no reason whatsoever to bring you into this. Campos' single-day double-header also involved club and international fixtures taking place on the same day. Unlike Janio though, Campos had a lot less travelling involved in his rare two-game escapade. On June 16th, 1996, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, which had hosted the World Cup final 2 years earlier, hosted another big spectacle, putting on 2 games in a single day. The first was a Major League Soccer tie between LA Galaxy and the now defunct Tampa Bay Mutiny of Carlos Valderrama fame, and the second being a big US Cup tie, a competition which also no longer exists but was contested between the United States and 3 guest teams, in this instance between the rival nations of the United States and Mexico. Jorge Campos, who had only just signed for the Galaxy, was the only player involved in both fixtures. He started for both LA Galaxy and Mexico, conceding 4 goals across the 2 games, though he still emerged with a record of 1-1, drew 1, as LA Galaxy beat Tampa Bay Mutiny 3-2, and Mexico drew 2-2 with the United States, which was good enough to see them win the tournament. Søren Lerby. Another national team legend, Søren Lerby won 67 caps for Denmark, and he is one of the Scandinavian country's greatest players of all time. A man who is best associated with the Dutch giants of Ajax, where he made more than 200 appearances and won 5 Eredivisie titles, Lerby also starred for Bayern Munich, Monaco and PSV, winning the European Cup in 1988 with the last of those 3. A left-footed midfielder who could play through the middle or off the left side, Lerby had remarkable stamina, a vicious left-footed shot, and a fantastic understanding of the game. He stood out on the pitch, not only because of his talent and desire, but also because he always wore short socks without any shin pads, giving him a particularly distinctive look. It was during his time at Bayern Munich, on November 13th, 1985, that Lerby played twice in a single day, thus earning him a spot in this 7. His first fixture was a World Cup qualifier between Denmark and the Republic of Ireland at Lansdowne Road in Dublin, in which Lerby was substituted in the 58th minute, in order to catch the approximately 2-hour flight by private jet from Dublin to Munich for a DFB Pokal tie between Bayern and VfL Bochum. Denmark were 2-1 up when Lerby was withdrawn and went on to win the game 4-1. Meanwhile, Bayern stumbled to a 1-1 draw against Bochum in a game which required extra time and eventually a replay, which the Bavarians won 2-0, with Lerby scoring their second. Denmark topped their group to qualify for the 1986 World Cup, where they reached the round of 16. Meanwhile, Bayern went on to win the DFB Pokal that season, during a season which heralded a memorable double, with the club winning the Bundesliga title ahead of Werder Bremen by virtue only of goal difference. Lerby is an agent these days, whose clients include Ajax midfielder Davy Klaassen. Kenan Batu. If you consult the title of this video, you will see that nowhere does it say that the player in question has to have played 2 football games in a single day. Just 2 games. Now, this would be a bit of a cop-out if I included James Milner playing a game of chess before the 2016 Europa League final to calm his nerves, but I promise you, I haven't done anything like that. No, Kenan Batu, who will be familiar with any Turkish and, I suspect, a fair few Italian viewers, is a man who somehow managed to juggle playing professional and even international football and basketball at the same time. And you can see where I'm going with this one. Batu's initial promise was in basketball, where he began his career with Fenerbahce and made 6 appearances for Turkey's national team. In the mid-1950s, Turkey legend turned Fenerbahce coach Fikret Arıcan invited Batu to come and train with Fenerbahce's football team, and it turned out that he was, well, pretty good. Well, alright, he was more than pretty good in fact. He would go on to become one of Fenerbahce's all-time leading appearance holders and goal scorers, with 173 goals in 326 games from the left flank in the league alone, in addition to winning 26 caps for the Turkish national team. He also became the first Turkish player to appear in a major European final in 1962, when he started for Fiorentina in the European Cup Winners' Cup final against Atletico Madrid. Batu eventually quit basketball in order to focus on football full-time, but for 2 years, between 1955 and 1957, he played both sports at club and international level. On January 25th, 1957, Batu grabbed 2 goals and 2 assists in a 4-0 win for Fenerbahce's football team before starring for the club's basketball team on the same day, scoring 10 points in a narrow 44-43 win. Batu died in 2019, aged 83, but he is immortalised in the form of a statue in Istanbul. Chris Balderston. In a similar vein to Kenan Batu, though I can assure you that our last two inclusions both played 2 games of football in a single day, Chris Balderston is another multi-sport athlete, of the type that are extremely rare in the 21st century. Balderston played professional cricket and football, a combination that was fairly common prior to the 1950s but was already almost unheard of by the time that he did it. A native of Huddersfield, football was Balderston's first calling, as he was offered a professional contract at Huddersfield Town by Bill Shankly when he was 18 years old. Balderston was a technically gifted midfielder, and he went on to play top-flight football at Carlisle United, where he spent a decade, before stints at Doncaster Rovers and Queen of the South. Balderston made his first foray into first-class cricket with Yorkshire at the age of 21, but it was Leicestershire that he would become synonymous with, in a career spanning 3 decades. Balderston didn't make his England Test match debut until he was 35, by which stage his focus had switched from football to cricket. In September 1975, Balderston made 51 runs not out for Leicestershire against Derbyshire before heading up the M1 to Bellevue, the home of Doncaster Rovers, for an evening game against Brentford. Remarkably, the following day, Balderston returned to Leicestershire and enjoyed a sensational innings of 116. Not bad for a couple of days' work. Mark Hughes. The most famous footballer to play 2 games in one day, here in Britain at least, Mark Hughes is often lauded for his commitment to the cause, having turned out for both Wales and Bayern Munich in pretty stunning circumstances within a single day. A brilliant footballer, best remembered for his 2 stints at Manchester United, Hughes was on loan at Bayern Munich from Barcelona at the time, and he spent just a single season playing in the Bundesliga. Bundesliga teams at that time were famously reluctant to release players for international fixtures, hence why so many non-Germans who played their club football in the league during that era won so few caps for their countries. And also, hence why there are 2 players from Bayern Munich alone in this 7. It was November 11th, 1987, when Hughes had come to a similar arrangement with Bayern as Søren Lerby had done 2 years before him. The Welshman would travel from Munich to Prague to face Czechoslovakia in a Euro 88 qualifier before being flown back to Munich by private jet for a DFB Pokal tie between Bayern and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Hughes did just that, playing a full 90 minutes against Czechoslovakia, which would be the last time Wales faced Czechoslovakia before the breakup of the Central European state, losing 2-0, before coming on as a substitute against Gladbach in a game that Bayern won 3-2, but had been down 2-0 when the Welshman was introduced. Hughes takes no credit for the comeback though, describing himself as having been hopelessly knackered following the journey when he came off the bench. That's probably why not many players have played twice in one day, come to think of it. Cole Palmer. Selected as my top spot, in a 7 that is really in no definitive order, I put Cole Palmer there for a few different reasons. Firstly, because he is a young man in the news right now, having just scored his first goal in the Champions League against Club Brugge. Secondly, because he was the inspiration for this video, in the form of a suggestion from Man City fan and subscriber Marcus over on Twitter. And thirdly, because you could be forgiven for watching this video of players who played twice in one day, the most recent of which happened in 1999, and thinking to yourself, well, that sort of thing would never happen now. Well, Cole Palmer is here to tell you that it can. Well, that isn't strictly true. He isn't. I'm here to tell you about why he shows that it can, which, admittedly, is a bit of a come down compared to hearing it from the man himself. It was just a few days ago that Cole Palmer came off the bench for Man City in a comfortable 2-0 win against Burnley in the Premier League in place of the excellent Bernardo Silva, before bagging a hat-trick just a couple of hours later for Manchester City's under-23 team against Leicester City in the Premier League 2. Palmer had agreed with the Manchester City coaching staff that so long as he played fewer than 30 minutes in the first team against Burnley, he could head over to the academy ground after the game to play for the under-23s. Sure enough, he did play fewer than 30 minutes before striking 3 times in an emphatic 5-0 win. The 19-year-old, who represents England at under-21 level, described it as a, quote, good day, which, seems reasonable enough. Among a raft of really exciting young players to have emerged at Manchester City in recent years, Palmer is someone who is worth keeping an eye on, backed to have a big future in the game by coaches at the Etihad. So that is it for today's video, but thank you all very much as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed. I mean, come on, why wouldn't you be? To HITC Sevens, and have notifications turned on. You can also find me on social media, on either Twitter or Instagram by the username at HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.